The first question has to do with navigating the dementia journey. Every person living with dementia is unique. Although there are commonalities, everyone's path is different. What were some of the initial challenges that you faced after being diagnosed with dementia, and how have you navigated them?
Well, as I've said before, Don, Fred, rather, the word navigated to me is incorrect. I'm still navigating. It's hasn't been that, but I think the biggest single issue and challenge that I find is the sense of loss that this diagnosis has um, put in my lap and my family's lap. And that's just like an overriding sense of loss. As you stated, I lost my job. Well, I left my job because of the diagnosis, and it was something I loved to do. It gave me my status in the community. It gave me. I was coaching wrestling in the school I was working at. Gave me a lot of joy, and I had to leave it. And I left it at a proper time. So again, that my loss of identity and role. I'm no longer the dependable guy that I used to be. That's what I feel. I am always told, no, that's not true. It's just different now. But you still have that sense that something's been ripped from you and part of your self worth. Uh, and most recently, I gave up my driver's license, which again ties all into that sense of loss and independence. And I think the biggest one is the loss of the future that Penny and I had planned. We had a not we had a fairly clear idea where we were going, and this diagnosis has set it on its ear, as they say, and that's all. And having to make those decisions on the fly and changing up how we see ourselves. That's the biggest challenge because we get tons of support from friends, the Alzheimer's Society, other family members, but I think singularly that prolonged sense of grieving, that's the biggest challenge that we're always struggling with on a daily basis. We don't wallow in it, but it's still, oh man, this never used to be like this. So we battle through, and we're going to continue battling through. But it's hard, and I think most people in our situation, like you said, there's a lot of commonalities and there's a lot of differences. But I think that's one commonality is that it's not easy, and yeah, the key is to keep going forward, I think.
Well said. Don, I'm going to intrude on your meditation right now and and ask you exactly the same question. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenges that you faced after diagnosis and how to refer back to Brian, how you are navigating them?
Certainly, and thank you for asking. Around 2 years ago, I realized and test confirmed that I did have a problem and it was getting worse. I fought the idea. No, I don't. I lost. I started learning all I could about the problem, admitting that I had it. And I learned about things like socializing, increasing that, diet that would help myself, in my case, less beef and more greens, more beans, and things like exercise. I'm overweight, so that's always a challenge when you have arthritis as well, but I do go to exercise, in fact, and enjoy it. And I learned about the types of dementia, and nobody's too sure about it, but mine is at least early. And I learned about the importance of a support system because I was, I guess, a rather independent person, and now I have to consider home care even. So one of the things that bothered me is I immediately lost all confidence in my own speaking out, as I found that I didn't always tell the truth. I made words that were total garbage at times. And rather than be a speaker on all things, as I kind of thought I was, I shrunk back into being a homebody, and I became unnaturally quiet and avoided people in general because I also, at the same time as this, my hearing went, and I say hearing, but I do not understand words that are spoken very well at all. So that forced me to stay home most of the time and shrink away from people. So that was a problem. I played a lot of Scrabble against the computer, not people. And I tried to solve all kinds of math and science puzzles that appear on the web as well to exercise my brain. Now, whether it helped or not, I at least tried it. So I, when this happened, I started a weekly Zoom group of men like myself, uh, going up into the age of 80s and 90s. And to my surprise, that was very, very well received. And I get somewhere between 6 and 19 men out once a week on Zoom, and we just do roughly what we're doing here. We're chatting about our problems, helping each other. They live all the way across Canada and have a real variety of occupations, from being a dentist who's 94 to retired people, and a real assortment of people. But we all help each other because we seem to find some commonality. One of the problems I have, and I'm still struggling with this problem, various organizations, because they did hear me speak on CBC1 about my new dementia, uh, said, "Oh, we'd like you to be our guest speaker." And I really struggled with that because was it this constructive or just something that's different? And hence, was I a curiosity? And I actually turned many of them down, rightly or wrongly, but I'm still struggling with that because I'm not sure if putting myself out in public to be seen, and as I get frailer, is it helping to minimize dementia stigma or comfort others? And to me, the journey is still out on that. I'm not sure. I'm told that it is, but my own mind doesn't necessarily see that. I I miss the people that I used to meet because I'm, as I say, staying home and not meeting anybody, and that's not healthy at all. And I can't say that's a defense mechanism. That's a total failure. But I really do lack the mental or physical energy to start anything new. So I was very active, and I kind of never could imagine how I could sit for hours and quote do nothing. Well, I still don't understand it, but I do it very well. So that's really what I think about. And I try not to be bitter about things lost, but they're certainly there. And I try to be happy and thankful for what I still have. And we don't really get a chance to practice run on this thing called life, so I'm trying not to waste it. That's my thought for this part of the meeting.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. This common thread of loss, I think, is something that many of us can identify with. You both mentioned it. In one of my early sessions with other folks who had the disease, and a really critical part of for the society as well is to monitor the acceptance of folks who have been diagnosed. And in one of these early sessions, the instructor put up on a slide the old Kubler-Ross 5 steps in terms of towards death, the stages, 5 stages you go through: um, uh, denial, anger, so on and so forth, and then finally acceptance. And I must say, I don't, contrary to your belief, I don't talk a lot in those sessions, but I did stick my hand up and say to the instructor, there's one aspect up there that or that is missing. And she said, well, now what would that be? And I said, guilt. And she said, what do you have to be guilty about? I said, I have tried to be a supportive and a good dad, a good husband. I tried to allow people to rely on me for certain things and responsibilities. And the guilt of not being that guy with those skill sets, but it was a radical change for me in terms of loss. As for the other folks in my family, um, they seem to remain the same in time. I was the one that seemed to be guilty about what I had caught, if you will, and uh, that still haunts me. But thank goodness Arabella is here to straighten us out. Hello,
I,
Arabella.
I've been trying for the last half hour to get in. So finally got it.
Okay, well, we are very glad to see you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to.
You're just in time to answer the same question that I've asked the other two gentlemen, and that simply is, we want to know, once you catch your breath, we want to know from your perspective what kinds of challenges that you've faced since your diagnosis, and how you're coping with them or navigating them, as Brian says.
You see, my father had early onset dementia in his 50s. And I saw this brilliant, dynamic man sort of disappear from his personality, from his identity. And the fact that he is now nothing like he used to be, it sent shivers to my brain and my heart, and it was very, very painful to see. So when he died 7 years after the diagnosis, so when I got diagnosed with cognitive impairment, I thought of my father, especially because at that time when I first saw him, I was a young adult, and I said, "Oh, please, universe,
Tom Heather.
please do not let me go through this. Please take me out in my prime," which I thought was 35 years old. And I said, I cannot bear what I'm seeing, and I'm so, so scared that mine will even be worse. And so it was very difficult, especially at the start. Now, when I had a stroke and was shown to have cognitive impairment, I seriously doubted, is life worth living? What is there for me? And even if I were alive, would this be enough for me? And to me, that was a very, very dark night of the soul, dark times of the soul, because there were many nights that I felt that way. And so when later on I'd wish to be taken away and so on, I found, oh, but what is there? It's a question mark. Only after I've seen more of the Alzheimer's Society, after seeing some meetings and webinars where some folks who had been with the diagnosis for 15 and 25 years, and I thought, my God, they're here. They seem to be fully aware. They seem to be fully productive and continuing life as a fulfilling experience. And I thought, I wonder what they do, or what they did, or what they ate, or what interventions they had. And I thought to myself, but perhaps there is some hope for me. If they have been here 15 and 25 years and still going strong, what can I do to follow their footsteps?
Right.
And that gave me the glimmer of hope.